Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's Dealer On webinar, 80 gnarly local SEO tips for auto dealers. My name is Eliana Raggio and I'll be your moderator today. Today's webinar is being presented by Dealer On. For anyone who isn't familiar with Dealer On, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, best known for our amazing SEO, the absolute best customer service, and the highest converting website designs in the industry, including the brand new Chameleon responsive website platform. We're so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that Dealer On is still the only company in the industry that offers a money-back lead guarantee program. Does your website company guarantee you a 50% lift in leads or your money back? Well, maybe you should check us out at our gorgeous brand new Dealer On website at dealeron.com. And we have an amazing show in store for you today. We're so very pleased to have the one and only Greg Gifford as our presenter today. Greg Gifford is the new Director of Search and Social at Dealer On. He's got over 15 years of online marketing and web design experience and has specialized in automotive SEO for the last 5 years, helping hundreds of auto dealers thrive while the industry has struggled during the recession. Greg speaks internationally at both automotive and SEO conferences, teaching thousands of small business owners and marketers how to get their sites to show up higher in local search rankings. Greg also spends his spare time doing freelance website design and SEO for local businesses. He graduated from Southern Methodist University with a BA in Cinema and Communications and has an obscure movie quote for just about any situation. He's an international SEO speaker and currently serves as a member of the board of directors of the DFWSEM, an organization dedicated to promoting search engine marketing through best practices. His local search tips and tricks can easily be found online, and Greg can be reached at ggifford@dealeron.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, well, we're going to try to respond to you by email later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of this webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference. Hey, share it with your friends and colleagues. Oh, and guess what? Our good friends at AutoHook are sponsoring this week's webinar giveaway. AutoHook is a showroom traffic driver. They've built the ultimate attribution engine, which tracks that customer through the lead, showroom visit, and purchase, and then delivers a cost per sale that's best in the industry. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a $250 e-gift card from AutoHook. You have to be on the live broadcast to win it, though, so stay tuned and you could be the one walking away with this awesome prize today. And for more information about AutoHook, visit lead2show.com. That's lead with a 2, show.com. Also, at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey, so fill it out. We're always looking for quality feedback from our audience. Today, we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And hey, do you tweet much? You know what? We hope you do. We want to see those tweets. So if you have anything to say about today's presentation, please tag us in it. Use hashtag DealerOnWebby. I'm at Eliana Raggio. You can also hit up Greg Gifford at Greg Gifford. We look forward to seeing what you're saying. Now let's get started. Let's learn 80 gnarly local SEO tips for auto dealers. Greg Gifford, I am ecstatic you are back on the show today. How are you, sir?
I am wonderful, and I'm super pumped to be back.
Dude, I'm just going to tell the audience, this slide deck that he is about to lay out on all of us is amazing, and he has so much to get to. So without further ado, Greg, take it away. We have so much to get to.
Okay, so for those of you that haven't seen me or heard me before, I talk really, really fast. Today I am squeezing in over 230 slides, so sit back and get ready to hear some of my awesome knowledge bombs. And like she said, this is the 80 gnarly local SEO tips, but actually once I started making the deck, it ended up being 85. So really it's 85 gnarly local SEO tips for auto dealers. And because of the fact that I speak really fast and I'm going to burn through this, you're probably going to have trouble taking notes. So if you go down there to bit.ly/gnarly-local-SEO-tips, you can download a PDF of this slide deck. And like she mentioned, I am the new Director of Search and Social for Dealer On. So I run the SEO and social media department, and you can head to the blog. We are now posting Wednesday workshop videos. So at an absolute minimum, we're going to have one video a week posted that's got tons of helpful information in there. Plus, we'll be posting some other fun stuff and also regular blog posts on the blog. So make sure you check back and read our information. And for those of you that haven't seen me before, I am a firm believer in the fact that bullet points kill kittens. So this will be a bullet point-free presentation. And you probably noticed there at the beginning, we had Spicoli there from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Dude.
Every time I do presentations, we always have a movie theme, and today's theme is movies that were released in the 1980s. So I did include 186 movie references in this presentation today. And I know that there are quite a few young bucks out there. She was talking to Timothy earlier. He's actually here in our office in Dallas. And I bet he's maybe seen about 5 of these movies. So for all the youngins out there that haven't seen most of these movies, there is attribution down in the bottom corner of every slide that shows the title and the release date. So let's get this party going. Are you guys here because you need a hand with your SEO? Are you spending all your time looking up at competitors that are ranked higher than you? Do you sit up in bed at night wondering why the heck you're not ranking higher? Or maybe you feel like you're getting beat up by your competitors. And some of you might be hanging on to those page 1 rankings for dear life. And then when you start looking at SEO, it gets really confusing because it seems like it goes off in 100 different directions all at once. Now, I got to tell you, there's no miracle pill for SEO. It takes hard work and it takes dedication. But I'm going to give you some tips today that are going to help your dealership with staying alive.
It's awful. Awful. I swear, audience, it gets better than this, I swear.
And if you take all of these tips that I'm going to give you today, you're going to be able to take your dealership's marketing plan all the way up to 11. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we do have 85 tips in today's presentation. Just to prove the point that I did include 85 tips, I do have a running tip counter up in the top right corner. So every time we have a tip, that counter is going to pop up. So to start off with, though, we need to cover what local SEO is for those of you that don't understand or haven't heard about it before. So with traditional SEO, you're doing SEO to get a website to rank high when somebody's doing a search, regardless of where that person is. Now with local SEO, you're trying to get a website to rank high just in a specific geographic area. So if you're a dealer in Dallas, you don't care if somebody is searching for Toyotas in New York because they're not going to come buy from you. You only really care about showing up in the Dallas area. And a great example that helps to illustrate how local SEO works is pizza delivery. So if you were to sit down right now at the dealership and type in just pizza delivery to Google, Google's going to return a list of pizza delivery joints that are right by the dealership, even though you didn't put a city in. And then if you go home tonight and do the exact same search, you get a completely separate, completely different set of results because Google knows that you need something close by to where you're located. So restaurants, doctors, lawyers, plumbers, electricians, locksmiths, all work like this, and Google includes car dealers. So Google treats car dealers as a local business and will show local results even when cities aren't included. And that's why local SEO is important. In fact, we talked to a dealer recently, and this guy was in Michigan, but he gave us 5 cities that he wanted to rank in with SEO. He said, I really need help with SEO because I need to show up in these cities. Well, look, the guy was in Michigan, but he wanted to show up in New York and Houston and Chicago and Los Angeles. And SEO just doesn't work that way for car dealers. You can't do that. Google's going to be very biased to your actual location. And even if you want to show up in all these cities, you can't change the way that Google works. Google works the way it works. You got to work within the boundaries of the way that the algorithm's going to give you potential ranking slots. Now, if you're talking to your owner or your GM and you're trying to prove that you've got to do local SEO, that you need to include this in your marketing mix, there's a very simple math equation that I wrote about. Now, again, I'm trying to squeeze in as much information as I can into this webinar, so I'm not going to jump into this. But if you'd like to go and read about this, I write a monthly column at Search Engine Land, and that bit.ly link down there, bit.ly/SEO-math, takes you directly to that post that walks you through how to use a very simple math equation to show why local SEO is important. Now, when you're working with SEO and talking about your dealership's marketing plan, a very important question that you have to ask is, why do you want to rank? Because when you're doing SEO, you're not doing SEO internally or paying a vendor to do SEO to get you to rank high. You're doing SEO because you want to get more traffic. You want to get more leads. You want to sell more cars. That's the end goal. The end goal is not purely just ranking high. Okay? You've got to talk about the end result, what you can measure, what you want to do beyond ranking. That's what's important. And then the biggest question that needs to be asked is, why do you deserve to rank? Every dealer out there wants to rank #1 in his city. But you know what? In every city, there's only one dealer that deserves to be #1. And if you've got a couple hundred dealers in your metro area, why do you deserve to be on page 1? What do you do differently? What's special about you? That's what you have to dig into, and that's what you have to produce and show to people if you want to rank high. You have got to be unique. You can't put the same old crap on your website that everybody else puts on their site. Stuff like, we treat our customers like family. You know what? Everybody says that. Or, hey, we're family owned. You know what? Everybody says that too. Nobody cares, right? I'm not an animal. No haggle pricing, upfront pricing. Okay, great. You know, Sean Raines talks about this a lot when he talks about branding. How does this set you apart from everybody else? You're saying, hey, you don't have to haggle with us on prices. Well, what's the alternative? Oh, you have to haggle with us? We treat our customers like crap? No, this stuff does not make you stand out. And, oh, hey, you've got a state-of-the-art showroom? Okay, great. What's the alternative? You have a crappy showroom that nobody wants to buy cars from? Like, come on, you guys have to have better stuff on your websites. This is the same stuff that you see on every car dealer's website. This does not make you stand out. You can't be like everybody else. You have got to be unique. And now it's time for a poll question.
That's right, audience. We have 3 poll questions coming your way today. This is your first of 3 poll questions. It's on the screen now. We would love your honest answer. So the question is, now that Greg has told you that your unique content may not in fact be so unique, do you have a rewrite to do soon? Please select one of the following answers. Nope, none of that was on my site. Well, we might need to tweak it a little bit. Crap, I'm rewriting it right now. Somebody just got fired over this. Or I'm still laughing at Pee-wee. Once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results, and then you will know what everyone else is doing at their dealership. So the question again, now that Greg has told you that your unique content may not in fact be so unique, do you have a rewrite to do soon? Nope, we are totally unique. We didn't have any of that family stuff on there. Well, maybe we might need to tweak it a little bit and really make it unique. Shoot, I'm rewriting it right now. Somebody's getting fired over this. Or I'm still laughing at the last slide. Once we get a majority, oh, we already have a majority of the votes in. Okay, audience, I'll give you a couple more seconds while I do that. Greg, a lot of people have been asking for that link again to download this deck. And audience, just so you know, while Greg's going to get me that link, I have also put the entire deck into the handouts section through the GoToWebinar interface, so you can actually download it right through the interface, all right? Or you can go to that bit.ly link, which I believe is bit.ly, bit.ly, at gnarly-local-SEO-tips. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, there we go. All right, now let's close this poll and share the results. Greg, are you ready for this awesomeness?
Let's see what it is.
All right. All right, here we go. We'll go in order. 11% of today's audience said, nope, totally unique over here. None of that stuff is on my site. But the majority, 40%, said, well, we might need to tweak it a little bit. 30% of today's audience said, crap, I'm going to rewrite it right now. 1% of today's audience said, somebody just got fired over this. And 18% of today's audience, well, they're still laughing at the Pee Wee Herman slide. Greg, does that help you out at all?
That helps. And how many of you guys are pumped there's going to be another Pee Wee movie? Come on, it's going to be great.
I can believe he's still doing that character. That's crazy.
Oh, it's awesome. All right, so let's continue. Once you have all of this awesome content that you've come up with, you've got to be doing local SEO if you want to get eyeballs on that content. So you've got to have somebody on staff that's dedicated to SEO. And I'm not talking about your internet manager. Your internet manager has internet manager stuff to do. You need a dedicated staff member that their full-time job is doing SEO. And if you can't do that, you've got to have a provider handle it for you. You can't get by in today's world without doing SEO. Now, if you're going to outsource your SEO, remember, you get what you pay for. That small mom and pop guy up the street that says he's going to do your SEO for $500 a month, not going to happen. Now, maybe he's going to do a little bit of something, but compared to somebody that knows what they're doing and is going to do the full gamut of everything that needs to be done that we're going to talk about today, that can't be done for $500 a month. SEO is expensive. It's a manual process. And also, if you're outsourcing your SEO, you got to make sure that you choose wisely. There's a lot of shysters out there. There's a ton of vendors and a ton of mom and pop shops out there that say that they'll do SEO and they're just going to take your money. Now, sure, they might, like I said, might be doing a little bit for you, but you got to make sure you're choosing the right vendor so that you're not just tossing your money away. You need a vendor that knows what they're doing and is following the best practices that are set forth every year with all of the updates so that you're going to actually get positive results. So the next few set of tips here is going to show you several ways that you can spot those shady SEO providers. If your provider does article publishing, you need to run away super fast. This is a very outdated tactic that does not work anymore. This will actually potentially get you penalized. So if they're just taking an article and running it through a machine to reword it 50 different times and posting it on 50 different websites to get you 50 links, that's super bad. And you got to watch out if your provider is giving you a bunch of crappy duplicated content. Now, I have a really great example here thanks to my new best friend, Megan. Megan, if you're listening, I had to use this. I told you I was going to. So here's a great example off of a blog from a dealer. Now, I have blocked out the information because I don't want to embarrass the people. But you can see there the sentence that's highlighted in gray. Sometimes the dirt, dust, and gravel you travel on during the course of a day gets in your engine and can clog your air conditioning unit. So then I went over to Google and did a search for that sentence inside of double quotes so that Google would only return exact matches. So it's only going to show me other websites that have that exact same sentence on it. And there were almost 42,000 because this provider takes the same article and rewrites it about 50 times for each website and puts it on every website, and all it does is change out the name of the dealership and the name of the model and the name of the city. This is not SEO, folks. This is not going to help you. And then if your entire strategy from your SEO provider is just putting up model research pages, again, that's not SEO. That's giving you some content, but that doesn't mean you're doing SEO. It's more than that. Same thing. If all you're getting is a couple of blog posts a month or a bunch of blog posts a month, if that's the entire strategy, that's not SEO. That's content. That's not SEO. And along the same lines, there's a lot of providers out now that really, really push the fact that they're giving you great content. We're giving you so much content, you're going to rank. We're giving you 10 pages of content a month on your website, and we're giving you 15 pages of content, or we're giving you 20 pages of content a month, or hey, you get 10 pages of content and 10 blog posts. It does not make sense to do this, people. There is no reason to continually add X amount of pages to your website every month. Once you get the pages that need to be there that provide a great user experience and answer all the questions that need to be answered, why do you need to add anything else to your site? If you continue to add 10 pages a month, that's 120 pages a year that you're going to be adding to your site. In 2 years, you're going to have 250 pages. You don't need that on a car dealership website. Okay, this is not SEO that's going to work for you. And then there's providers that do a la carte SEO. They say, hey, look, here's our menu of services. Here's all the things that you can get from us related to SEO. Pick out what you need, and that's what we'll give you. Well, you know what? You're not going to a vendor knowing what you want to do. You're going to the vendor because you're trusting them to be the experts and to be up to date on the best tips and tricks and tactics. So if you're going to that vendor and they give you a list and let you pick out what you need, how are you supposed to know what you actually do or don't need? So if the vendor's letting you just choose out one or two things here and there, that's probably not a very good direction to head. And if your vendor is guaranteeing you rankings, run fast away. Now the small print that you don't see here is that they're going to guarantee you that you're getting ranked, but they're not going to tell you how much traffic those terms are going to be. I could go out and get any dealership ranked for 100 terms on page 1 of Google in the space of less than a week, but those terms are going to be so obscure that it's not going to bring them a single extra visit of traffic because no human would ever type these terms in. But I can give you a report that says you're ranked #1 for 100 terms. Woohoo, isn't that great? No, it's not. Doesn't matter. Same thing, if a firm guarantees you a certain number of links per month, this is really bad. Links used to be a numbers game. The more you had, the better you did. But after Google's updates, you can't just go out and get links from anywhere. The source of the site that's linking to you is incredibly important. And if you're getting good links, it's not something you can just tack on 10 links a month. It takes time and research and effort. And also, it's super important that whoever your provider is understands local SEO and does all of the extra things involved with local SEO that we're going to talk about today. And back to the rankings thing, if the report that you get on a monthly basis is just a bunch of pages of how you rank for a bunch of keywords, then that is not a valid SEO report. Again, you're not getting SEO to rank high, you're getting SEO to get more traffic and sell more cars. So your reports should show what matters to the bottom line of the dealership. It should tie in to dollar values that you can understand. It should show how your organic traffic increases and how your conversions increase over time. That's all that really matters. And when we're talking about reporting and Google Analytics and these things, I've got to tell this to you. This is super important. This is my goal this year. A lot of car dealers don't understand bounce rate. They freak out over their bounce rate, but you've got to understand how Google Analytics works to calculate bounce rate. If somebody lands on your homepage of your website, Google knows that they hit that page. Now, for Google to know how long they spent on that page, they have to hit another page on your website. So if they go to your homepage and they look at the page for 2 minutes, and then they go to your inventory page, at that point, Google knows, hey, they spent 2 minutes and 1 second on this page. But if they land on the page and they spend 2 minutes looking at it, and then they call you to find out how to get to the dealership and to set up a test drive, and then they leave, Google will say that they spent 0 time on site and that visit was a bounce. But you know what? You got a phone call out of that, so you still got a conversion. So there has to be a second page that they visit for that page not to be a bounce. So if they land on a VDP and they're looking at all the photos of the car they want and they spend 10 minutes on that page and then they leave the site, that's going to count as a bounce even though they spent 10 minutes looking at that page. So don't lose sleep over bounce rate. In fact, sometimes if you have a higher bounce rate, that's great, because if you're driving all of your traffic to phone calls and you're getting a bunch of phone calls, your bounce rate's going to be higher. Now, it's important that that SEO guy on staff goes to SEO conferences. You've got to stay up to date with all of the updates. And if you're using a provider, ask your provider what conferences they go to, because it doesn't do you any good to have an SEO provider that's not attending these conferences and staying up to date with what's going on, because you have to keep up with all of the updates that Google puts out. Because whenever Google puts out an update, it requires a huge strategy change. So a couple examples of this, how things have changed in the last few years. Google rolled out the Panda update that targeted low-quality content. So before the Panda update, your content didn't matter as much. Now you have to have really high-quality content. If you have crappy content on your site, you're not going to rank well. And then it rolled out the Penguin update that targeted bad link and link manipulation. Before this, it was a numbers game. You could get as many links as you could, and the guy with the most links was going to win. But now it matters where you're getting your links from. I had a car dealer that came to us a couple of years ago that had been working with a very large automotive SEO provider, and the guy wasn't showing up in Google. And it's because his old provider had been purchasing links for him. The guy had about 6,000 links from Russian sex sites. Okay? Before the Penguin update, hey, great. After Penguin update, hey, you're getting penalized for that. There's no reason for that. So you've got to make sure that you're getting the right kind of links now. Again, huge strategy change. Then we had the Hummingbird update. Now, Hummingbird wasn't a penalty-based update. Hummingbird enabled semantic search. So now you could go and do a search and say, where is the Statue of Liberty? And it would tell you that it's in the harbor in New York. And then you could simply type in, how tall is it? And it will understand that it refers back to the Statue of Liberty and it'll tell you how tall it is. So Google's starting to understand the language of the queries that you're asking and the semantics and the understanding and the meaning, and not just matching keyword to keyword. It's starting to understand that car dealer and car dealership are really the same thing. So again, you had to change how you're writing your content. It has to be much more conversational. Then last summer, we had a huge update for local search, the Pigeon update that rolled out at the end of July last year. Now, I'm going to dig into this a little bit more because this is really important since we're talking about local search today. One of the big results from that update was that the search radius was shrunk. So the circle that Google draws that's going to give you that local search radius is about 60% the size that it was before this update a year ago. And another big difference is now we see different radius sizes on different queries. So depending on the page of your website and what keyword phrase that is targeting, you're going to see different sizes on the radius. So great example of this. You search for Toyota dealer Washington, D.C., and you can see there the size of the map. But if you do a search for used cars Washington, D.C., you can see it's zoomed out a lot. There's a much wider radius. So again, you have to change your strategy because now you have to understand, based on the keywords that you're targeting on each page, what your potential reach could be. Then we also saw a reduction in the number of the 7-pack, and we saw a lot more of 3-packs and 1-packs. Now notice I put a little asterisk there. I am a huge tinfoil hat wearing Google conspiracy theory guy. I am 100% sure that the reason that Google did this a year ago is because they were prepping us for the update that happened a few weeks ago where they completely ditched the 7-pack for everyone. So I think this was very much a lead-in into the plan of moving to just 3-packs for everybody. And then we also saw that the update heavily favors directory sites. So now with a lot of automotive searches, you're seeing a lot of cars.com, AutoTrader, Car Gurus, things like that. So it's important on search queries where a lot of directories are showing up that you take advantage of Barnacle SEO. Now, if you've never heard of Barnacle SEO, very quickly, it's the idea of attaching yourself to the SEO power of a larger website so that you can get the traffic that drifts by. Now, again, I don't want to dig into this because I'm trying to squeeze in as much as I can. So if you want to go over to my buddy Phil's website, go to bit.ly/barnacle-seo-guide, and there's a great blog post that digs into the different ways that you can use Barnacle SEO to take it, not necessarily take advantage of those directories showing up, but make sure that if your search query is showing a lot of directories, you're still going to get some traffic out of that. And then we have the update to the Google My Business quality guidelines. This is what used to be Google Places, and every year Google releases a quality guideline update that says this is the way that you should fill this information out so that this page is going to be optimized. So one of the crazy changes, that this happened right in December, one of the crazy changes, in April of 2014, Google said, you know what, we're going to let you start putting a single descriptive word in addition to your business's name in your Google My Business listing. Then in December, 8 months later, they come back and do a complete 180 and said, actually, you can't put the descriptor in your business name. In fact, if you do this, you're going to get penalized. So again, you've got to stay up with these updates because 8 months before that, Google told you to do it, and then 8 months later, Google says not to do it. You've got to stay up to date. And then Google says, guess what? You should only be choosing the most specific categories for your business. So when we flipped from Google Places to Google My Business, you went from 5 categories to 10 categories. At an absolute maximum. And Google said, hey, you know what, you should pick as many categories as you can. That'll help you show up in more searches. And now in December, Google came and said, you know what, you shouldn't pick all of the possible categories. You should only pick the most specific categories. So you should no longer, for example, say that you're a car dealer and a Toyota dealer. You should only put Toyota dealer, according to Google. And then here's another big one. A lot of times we'll see dealerships have one listing for sales and one listing for service, which is great. But in the past, you would have sales and service, or Toyota dealer and then auto service, and Toyota dealer and auto service on both listings. But now Google says if it's the same company and different departments, the categories need to be unique. You can't have category overlap between the listings. So again, drastic change. Then we had the Mobilegeddon update in April that everybody freaked out about and nothing really happened from, but was still a strategy change because there were a lot of people out there that were still not on responsive websites yet, and Google said, look, you have to have a mobile-friendly site. Now, does that mean it has to be responsive? No. You can have an adaptive site. You can even have a completely separate mobile site, but what's important is that you did have a mobile-friendly user experience, or you wouldn't show up in mobile searches. Again, big strategy change. Then, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we have the new 3-pack, which is being called the local stack. This just happened on August 7th. For those of you that don't dig into Google very often and don't see this change, let me show you what changed. Before, you would see the 7-pack like this. You had the dealership name, the link, the star ratings, a link to the Google Plus page, and then the map pins over on the map, and then the address and the phone number for dealers. So you could get your address and phone number to show up on page 1 of Google even before people got to your website. Now, we've got the new local stack. The map has been moved over to be in the main column. We don't have corresponding ABC map pins anymore. And notice, we no longer have an address, we just have the road, and we no longer have a phone number.
And I'm glad you went over this, because we have many people, when you first mentioned the 7-pack and the 3-pack, they're like, what the heck is that? What was the 7-pack? So
right.
That goes out for Celeste and Rachel and a whole bunch of others who had that same question.
So that 7-pack is what we used to have up until August 7th, when Google now changed it to this 3-pack. Now what's really crazy is if you click on any of these listings, it takes you to this new local finder page. Now notice what happens. In the past, you only had to compete with the reviews for those 6 other dealers that showed up near you. Now, you're only competing against the 2 other dealers if you're lucky enough to show up in the top 3. But if you're lucky enough to show up in the top 3, then someone clicks over onto your listing or onto a listing by you. Now you're seeing 10 dealers. It shows 10 dealers on a page. So now you might be doing okay and showing up in the top, but if there's a dealer that's down below you that has more reviews or has a better rating with fewer reviews, you could potentially lose out to that because it's a lot less visible. And notice, through both of those, bless you,
oh, God,
through both of those, there is no longer a link to your Google My Business page. So there's a little bit less visibility there. So again, drastic change in the way that results are displayed. So how the heck are you supposed to know what to do when you want to go optimize your website? And for those of you that are a little bit older, you will appreciate how hard it was for me to find a family-friendly image for this movie. And for those of you that don't get the joke, go watch the movie.
Oh, you youngins are so funny. You don't know.
But once you guys go watch this movie, you're going to crack up and you're going to be like, now I get that joke. So to know what you're supposed to do, luckily, there is an SEO tools company named Moz. You've probably heard of it, but if you haven't, they put out a lot of really great SEO tools, and they do a study every year. They take the top 40 people internationally, so the top 40 people in the world that do local search, and they send us all this questionnaire. It's a very long questionnaire. It takes a long time to fill out. You fill the questionnaire out. We send it back to Moz. They crunch all the numbers, and they come up with a list of the signals that most influence how search results are displayed. So nobody knows what's in Google's algorithm except Google. But when you take those top 40 people that are doing this day in and day out, that know from tweaking things every day what works and what doesn't work, now you get this perfect list. This is the local SEO Bible. This comes out every year. And we just got the questionnaire for this year. So I would guess by October-ish we'll have the 2015 Ranking Factor Study released. But for the rest of the presentation, I'm going to go through this list and show you guys which signals matter the most from top to bottom, and then how to optimize those signals for your dealership so that you're putting your best foot forward when it comes to local search. So let's start off with on-site signals. This is the biggest chunk of the pie, 21% of the ranking signal. And I got to tell you, most auto dealers really suck at optimizing their website. And you're probably sitting there thinking, oh, you know what, he's not talking to me. But you know what? Yes, I am talking to you. You probably suck at optimizing your website, okay? Because we see this stuff all the time. Dealers will tell us, hey, I've got a great website, I'm doing well, blah, 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 blah. We'll go look at their site, and it's flat out awful. So I'm going to show you the next few tips here, ways to spot things that you think are awesome that really kind of suck for SEO. So we see this a lot where there's just no homepage content or very little homepage content. Dealers are like, oh, my homepage is great. I got all these pretty photos. Look. But you know what? There's no text on this page. There's nothing for your people to read. The text that we see there, the no-cost scheduled maintenance plan, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's cool, but that's in a JPEG, so Google can't read it. There's nothing for Google to index on this page that tells them anything about you other than your phone numbers and your address. And there's nothing for your customers to read that sets you apart from all the other dealerships. And then we'll see all the time internal pages that just have a sentence or two on them. So we'll see something like this. Hey, we sell lots of extended warranties. Call us for more information. You know what? You just lost that customer. They're not on your website because they want to figure out what they can call you about. They're on their website to answer questions about what you offer so that they know that they want to buy from you. If you sell warranties, put the warranty information on your site. If you sell parts, put the parts information on your site or link to your parts site. Don't say, hey, we sell parts. Call us for more info. And then this is a really big hot button issue probably for the past year and a half or so in auto. It's not feasible for your website providers to write unique content for every dealership. It's up to the dealers to make sure that their content is unique. So if you've got default text that your provider gave you when you signed up still on your site, you need to get out there and update it so that it's unique. Because again, you've got to stand out from everybody else. You can't have the same content there. So looking at this right here, again, highlight that first sentence. I took it over to Google. I did a search inside of double quotes to only get exact matches. And we have 5,500 results. So 5,500 other car dealerships that have the exact same sentence on their warranty page. This does not do you any good. And again, a lot of people are flaming the providers for this, saying that it's awful. But you know what? It's not the provider's fault. It's your fault as a dealer. It's your responsibility to get this stuff updated. And then I see this all the time, and I hate it. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
Oh, Tom Cruise?
No. The spammy city list and the spammy model list, okay? You're not going to show up in 15 cities just because you listed 15 cities separated by commas on your homepage, okay? Google does not work that way. It has never worked that way. So when we see stuff like this, this does not work, okay? This Toyota dealership in the San Francisco Bay Area is not going to show up in all 15 of these cities or 20 of these cities because they mentioned it one time on their homepage in a comma-separated list. And then the guy below, listing out all these different makes and models. Now, this is from a used car dealership, but I love using this example because this guy's got Lincoln MKX and Lincoln MKS. But you know what? The guy doesn't even have any Lincolns in his inventory. So, A, you're not going to rank for it, and B, if you did rank for it, it wouldn't do you any good because you don't even have those cars in your inventory. So stop doing this stuff. It doesn't work. And then I see dealers all the time, and I've even talked to some vendors that freak out about this. Meta keywords stopped working 6 years ago. They are 100% completely ignored by every search engine. So instead of spending your time trying to come up with a keyword list to throw in the meta keywords on your page, spend your time creating awesome content. And if you've got a provider that's freaking out because you can't edit the meta keywords, that's a pretty good sign that that provider doesn't really know what they're doing. And this one is my favorite or least favorite or worst enemy, however you want to phrase it, freaking awful title tags. Okay. There's been tons of research. Anything longer than 50, 55 characters is probably going to get changed by Google anyway, so it's not going to display when you show up as a result in Google. But the title tag is arguably the most important SEO element on any page. It should be a quick summary of what that page is about. It's a big headline. It's what shows up above the top of the browser, okay? 50 to 55, maybe 60 characters is all you get here. You should have a major keyword phrase and a secondary keyword phrase and maybe the name of your dealership. Not something like this. Now this is from my Mac with a ridiculously high resolution and a ridiculously giant monitor because I'm nerdy like that. And I could still only fit half of this on the screen or you wouldn't even be able to read it. Now, no human is ever going to type in Longview, Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Ford, Honda, Jeep, Ram, Science, Subaru, and Toyota dealer in Longview, Washington. Plus, the name of the dealership isn't Longview Chevrolet. They're just trying to put in their city, and they put their city in twice. And then it goes twice as long as this. This stuff doesn't work. You've got to stop doing all of these things that you think are going to trick Google. Stop trying to fool Google. The guys at Google are smarter than all of the rest of us combined. The smartest nerds in the world work at Google. You can't fool them anymore. You've got to stop doing all these things where you're thinking this will get me to rank in Google. And for all of you fans out there, and for those of you maybe that haven't seen Weird Science, you should have seen it, but yes, that is Iron Man with a bra on his head. So instead of all of these crazy tricks that don't even work in the first place, you've got to create awesome content. And when you're sitting down to create content, the most important thing you can do is have the thought process in your head. I'm creating this content because this solves a problem. This answers a question that people have. This serves a purpose on my website for the people that look at my website. If you're putting something on your website and your thought process is, oh, I'm going to put this page up because this page will rank high in Google, but nobody's ever really going to read it, then you're doing it wrong. You've got to think about your users and the things that you do to create an awesome user experience. will then in turn help you rank higher in Google because your content matters. But do not take this the wrong way. Okay? It's like the game of telephone that you played when you were a kid. Somebody in an SEO conference says, hey, look, you got to have awesome, great content. And then that filters down through the blogosphere and through the internet, and then it eventually gets to these SEO providers that work in automotive, and they're like, oh my gosh, we need content, content, content. And that's what we talked about earlier, the guys that say we're going to give you 20 pages of content a month because they heard that content's important. But content is important, but it's about quality, not quantity. I would take one awesome page of content over 10 pages of crappy content in a heartbeat. Okay? Think about really great content that's going to solve a problem or answer a question. That's what needs to be on your site. And I've got a really great example here. I stole this from Will Reynolds, who is a really awesome speaker in the SEO space. And it's a great example that works for automotive, so I kind of stole it from him. This is one of the best examples of content marketing ever, and it's over 100 years old. The Michelin Guide. You guys have all heard of Michelin stars for restaurants, but you may not have realized that it's the Michelin Tire Company that started this thing, okay? Now what they did, they said, hey look, we're going to give this free guide to all of the chauffeurs, and this free guide is going to list out all of the best restaurants according to our restaurant rating system, so that then when the chauffeur is driving his client around and the client says, I'd like to go eat dinner at a nice restaurant, where should we go? Jeeves can turn around and say, oh, well, here's this great place over here, and they drive to it. And once they go to that restaurant and see how awesome it is, they're going to trust Jeeves to take them to a bunch of awesome restaurants, and Jeeves just has to consult his little Michelin guide. Well, what happens? They're driving everywhere, and because they're driving all over the place, they're going to wear out their tires. And what happens when they wear out their tires? They're going to have to buy more tires from Michelin. So while restaurants may not seem like a good tie-in for a tire company, because they put out this guide, all the chauffeurs are driving all over the place to go to these awesome restaurants, and now their tires were out and they buy more tires. And this is something that's still true today. People travel all over the world to go to Michelin star restaurants. That's an awesome example of great content that's going to last forever and help your brand. So, like I said, you've got to make sure that you're creating content that people will actually read, that people will care about. And when you're writing this content, this is one of the biggest tips here for those of you that do your own content creation. Read your content out loud. If it doesn't sound the way that you would speak to a customer face-to-face, then you're writing it incorrectly. If it sounds like, hey, come buy your next Toyota from Jim Bob's Toyota in Dallas, Texas, the best Toyota dealership in Dallas, Texas, where you can buy a Toyota, no. And that's how a lot of people write their content. They're trying to shove in their brand or their dealership name or their city and state as many times as they can. Your content needs to be conversational. And I've got 15 minutes left to burn through some slides, so we're going to pick up the pace a little bit here. When you're writing your content, get your content awesome, and then you're going to step back and go through and follow these following set of tips to optimize that content with local search signals. So you want to make sure you've got your city and state in your title tag. Then you want to make sure you've got city and state in the H1 heading for the page. And then obviously you've got to make sure you have city and state in your content. It's also important to put alt text on all of your images. You should be doing that anyway. But in that alt text on that page, it's a great place to put in the city and state and squeeze in a little bit more local relevancy. And then for internal pages on your site where you've got the ability to edit your URL, put the city and state in the URL. So instead of dealership.com/used inventory, have dealership.com/used cars Dallas, Texas. And then it's also important, put that city and state in the meta description. Now there's some SEO nerds that are listening right now that are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hang on a second there, Greg. Meta description doesn't matter in the ranking algorithm. But you know what? Creepy kid from Children of the Corn says, yes, I know that. The meta description does not count in the algorithm, but it's like ad copy because that meta description is the text that shows up under your link when you show up in Google. So if you've got good meta description text, it's like ad copy and it's going to help you get more click-throughs. So it's important to put it there too. Also super important that you have an embedded Google map on the page. And when you embed that Google map, make sure that you embed it from your Google My Business page, not just from going to Google Maps and putting in your address. And here's why. If you just drop your address into Google Maps, your map embed's going to look like this. You get the map pin and you get the map, which, okay, that's great. You've got the map there. But if you go to your Google My Business page and embed it from the map that's on that page, check that out. Now your map pin gets labeled, and on the info box, you see the aggregate star rating and the number of reviews that you have. And instead of just listing the address in bold, it's got the name of your dealership in bold. It's a much better signal, both for Google and for your customers.
Mm-hmm.
Also, super important that you have your NAP on every page and that your NAP is marked up with schema. There's probably somebody out there saying, hold on, what's NAP? Well, NAP is what we call name, address, phone number. And there's probably some people out there saying, wait a minute, what the heck is schema? Schema is code that organizes stuff. It's the search engines got together and said, hey, let's all agree on this same set of code that people can use on their site to help organize their information. So, great example of this is right here. We see the information for San Francisco Toyota, name, address, phone number, and then hours of operation. Now, when Google comes to your site, Google's going to have to crawl this and figure out what all these bits of information are. Now, if you have them formatted simply like this, great, Google can figure it out. But there's also a lot of different ways you could format this and different ways you could write it. You might just have M-F. You might write out Monday through Friday. You might have Mon-Fry like this. You may have 8:30 space AM or 8:30 AM with no space, or you just might have 8-7. There's a lot of different ways. So when you go in and put the schema in, notice with the hours right there, the code in orange right above it, you're declaring your opening hours in the format that schema declares that Google wants to see it in. So now Google doesn't have to figure out what you're writing for humans. Google sees what you're writing for Google. And notice at the very top where you're declaring your schema markup, you're saying right off the bat, hey, by the way, Google, this is an auto dealer. So Google doesn't have to do anything to the site to figure out what you're selling or what you're doing. It knows right off the bat you're an auto dealer. Now, most providers are including at least a little bit of schema automatically. So you can go to Google and there's a schema testing page. Go in and drop your URL in there and see what's there. If you don't have schema, you can definitely put some in manually as well. It will be a huge help for you. Also, incredibly, incredibly important, and this is the biggest pain point every time I speak to car dealers, you've got to have a local phone number on your site. You have to have a local phone number. And yes, that means you can't use call tracking numbers. You cannot change the way that Google works. Remember, no matter how much you want to and no matter how much you don't agree, Google expects that a local business will have a local phone number. So if you've only got 800 numbers on your site, then that's going to hurt the potential rankings that you could have. Now, does that mean that you can't rank if you're using tracking numbers? And by the way, I do have this guy tattooed on my shoulder. Does it mean you can't rank if you're using tracking numbers? No. It's just a piece of the SEO puzzle. Now, it's a big piece of the puzzle, but for example, Audi forces 800 tracking numbers on their dealers. Does that mean I can't get an Audi dealership to rank #1? No, it can happen. It's just a lot more work. So if you're looking at all these different things I'm talking about today, any specific one of these, if that's the only thing you do, that's not going to be enough to get you to rank. But when you start combining all of these signals together, that's what gives you more local relevancy. So if the number is a big piece of that puzzle and you're not going to have that number, it just means you have to really make sure you put a lot of effort into everything else. And you absolutely need to have a blog, and you need to be posting regularly to that blog. Now, you shouldn't just be posting, hey, this is a 2015 Toyota whatever. You shouldn't be posting these cars, come buy them. You shouldn't be posting, hey, check out our dealership, come buy from us. You need to post local stuff too. Things about your community, things that you're doing to be involved in the community, things that are going on in your community. If you need ideas for these local blog posts, I wrote a post on Search Engine Land, so head over to bit.ly/local-content-ideas, and that's a huge post that talks about all the different things that you can do for local content. And if you're trying to target multiple cities, you can use a strategy called local content silos. Again, I put a post on Search Engine Land. Head over to bit.ly/local-content-silos, and it will walk you through the ways that you could create these local content silos to try to target some outlying cities where you're not actually located. And it's time for another poll.
What is regularly? When you say you have to post regularly, and oh my God, we're only halfway through all of your gnarly tips.
Yeah, let's save that question for the end because I got to really speed through the rest here because we've got about 15 minutes to finish.
All right,
or
let's go.
Actually less than that, like 10 minutes to finish.
All right, launching the second poll question. Audience, please, let's hurry up and finish this question for us, okay? How do you currently handle your dealership's SEO? We want to know. Is it we don't do any SEO? We outsource it all to a vendor? We handle it in-house at the dealership? Someone at the group level handles the SEO for all of the stores, or wait, what's SEO again? That's right, that's one of our answers. So what's your answer? How do you currently handle your dealership's SEO? Once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results. And the votes are still coming in. Audience, thank you so much. By the way, I want to let you know we have some awesome questions coming in from you guys. So please keep them rolling in. We're going to try and get to as many of them as we can before we have to shut down the broadcast. But please send in those great questions. And we're going to close this poll very quickly. No, really, how much is regularly? How often do you post to your blog? Like every week?
I mean, as often as you can post useful information. Don't post every day just to post every day. Don't post every week just to post every week. But if you've got something that's useful and helpful that you can write, get it on there. I mean, once a week would be great. Twice a month is good. If that's all you can do, once a month is better than nothing. I would go for, at least 2 or 3 times a month at a minimum.
There you go. All right. Audience, we're going to close this poll now. Thank you so much for your votes. And here we go. Okay, only 2% of today's audience says that they don't do any SEO. But the majority, 55% of today's audience, say that they outsource it to a vendor. 27% of today's audience said that they handle it in-house at the dealership, so nearly a third. And 13% of today's audience said someone at the group level handles SEO for all the stores. And 3% of today's audience admit they don't know what the heck they're doing with SEO. Greg, does that help you out?
Sure. All right. Everybody strap in. We're about to get really fast. Moving on, talking about link signals, the second biggest piece of the local search ranking pie at 18.3%. And also, I got to brag, by the way, Booger there on the left, I met him and got a photo with him at Comic-Con this year. It was super awesome. That was kind of cool.
Congratulations.
So most dealers do not have that many links, which means if you can go get a couple of good links, that can really boost you in the rankings. But remember, like I mentioned earlier, after the Penguin update, it's no longer a numbers game. The source and the subject of the site linking to you are very important. And when you're counting your links, when you're using one of your tools, and we'll talk about one in a minute, to check how many links you have, don't just pay attention to the total link count, pay attention to the number of unique root domains. So you might have 300 links, but if all 300 of those links are only coming from 4 websites, that means only 4 unique websites are linking to you, and that's not so great. So you can't just look at your link count, you need to look at the number of unique websites linking to you as well. Now, because of the Penguin update, a lot of traditional SEO guys are only going to go after really powerful, really authoritative websites to get links from you. But I'm going to tell you a pro tip for local SEO. Don't ignore the crappy little church websites. Sometimes those really small, very kind of cruddy, small websites are incredibly hyper-local. So if you can get a link from this small local community group or church website or Little League site, that carries a ton of local authority. So make sure you're going after local link sources, not just really big, powerful ones. And we suggest using Open Site Explorer to check your links. This is a tool from that company, Moz, that does the local search ranking factor study every year. You can go to moz.com/researchtools/OSE, and you just drop in your URL, and it's going to spit out a list of all of your links. And then because you're just putting a URL in, you can get a little bit more advanced and put in your competitors' URLs and get a list of all the links that are linking to your competitors. And then you could compare the two and find opportunities and then go after those. And link building does not have to be this crazy hard thing that nobody really does because they think it's so hard. You could think about the things that you're already doing as the dealership. You know, you've built relationships up. You've worked with different charity organizations. You've done community outreach. You've worked with other businesses in the area. Take advantage of those relationships and mine those relationships and get some links out of it. And then take advantage of the things that you're already doing. You're already doing these charity events and golf tournaments and things like that. Make sure that you're going the extra mile and getting links from those. And make sure when you're getting links, you don't just link to your homepage. You need to link to internal pages as well. I want my $2. So when you're working on links and you export your links, you need to look at the anchor text. The anchor text is the clickable text that people click on the link that leads to your website. And here's the optimal breakdown you should go for. 50% of your links, half of your links, should be the name of your dealership. 25% should be naked links. That's just the URL. So just The actual clickable text is your actual URL. And then 15 to 20% should be just generic text, like click here or view site. And then only 5 to 10% of your links should be those keyword exact match anchor text phrases. If you're going more than 5 to 10%, you're really running the risk of getting some spammy links and some penalties there. And remember, you shouldn't be thinking of it as building links. You should be thinking of it as earning links. You should be getting links to your website because you've got that awesome content, not because you're just calling the guy up and saying, hey, give me a link. Now, moving on. Citations are 15.5% of the local search ranking factors. Citations are mentions of your name, address, and phone number on other websites. And while they're not as powerful as they used to be, they are still a very powerful signal of local relevancy. And I got to tell you, most dealers and a lot of automotive SEO providers don't do anything with citations. They just kind of ignore them. Traditional SEO just doesn't really include anything with citations. And citations all play together like this. You'll see how confusing this data stream is. You've got all the big thick lines that are the major top level providers that feed down into the second level, that all feed to the third level, and everything then compares into what's on Google. So if you've got bad information somewhere in there, it can feed through the rest of the ecosystem very quickly. And David Nim is the guy that runs this local search study every year, and he's got a great quote. You need to be where Google expects you to be. So if Google expects that a car dealership is going to be listed on a specific 30 websites and you're only listed on 15 of them, that could be a big part of the reason that you're not ranking very well locally. And just like Highlander, there can be only one version of your name, address, and phone number. Your citations have to be 100% consistent everywhere that they appear. If you've got a bunch of different phone numbers hanging out there because you're doing call tracking, then you're sending a bad signal out to Google. Or if your business name is misspelled or you've got a lot of bad info, then you're sending a bad signal, and you don't want to be sending a bad signal to Google. You want to send the best possible signal that you can to Google so that you've got a better chance of showing up higher. And here's my favorite example. I always talk about this guy. This is a crazy Cajun guy outside of New Orleans. He has since retired and sold the dealership, so it doesn't exist anymore. But the top one there in orange was the correct spelling of his business name. Now the other ones in white are the number of ways he spelled his own dealership's name on his own website. And obviously his citations were all over the board. So month one, all we did was clean up his business name everywhere, both on his site and off his site. And the guy went from not showing up in Google at all to being the #2 organic result and the #1 map pack result in his city. So that shows you how important it is that your citation information is correct. So for a quick high-level search, you should use Moz Local. If you go to moz.com/local/search, you get to this tool, you drop in your dealership name and your zip code, and it'll spit out a list of all the possible matches. Now ideally, you only want to see one possible variation of your listing. So if you pop in and you see something like this where there's like 10 different listings, you know you've got some citation problems with your sources, so you know you've got a fairly big problem. But when you click on any one of these, it will take you to a graph, and it shows you all these different major citation sources. The really cool thing about this tool is it's free, and then if you click on any of these bars, it takes you directly to that listing, so you don't have to go try to figure out where it is. So this is a really handy tool for doing a high-level quick check. Then you want to get more advanced with Whitespark. Now this is a Canadian site. The URL is kind of weird, so just go to bit.ly/local-citation-finder. This is a paid tool, but this tool is amazeballs, and you want to get it. So you can check all of your current citations by running a phone number, and unlike the Moz Local tool, this shows you everything that exists, not just the major sources. And then you could drop in a keyword and get a list of possible citation sources based on the keyword that you're targeting. Or, because you're just putting in a phone number, you can check every citation that exists for your competitors. And then they've got a really cool graph that you can use to compare yourself to your competitors and see where you're lacking citations that they have. And then you can find those opportunities, and you can go out and you can go get those citations. And if your business has ever moved or changed phone numbers, so the dealership has outgrown the old location and moved to a new bigger location with a great new state-of-the-art showroom, or if you've changed call tracking providers or just changed phone numbers, your #1 priority is to get that stuff cleaned up, because that bad data out there is going to hurt how you're going to be ranking. And here's a pro tip. A lot of groups and a lot of larger dealerships will use Yext. Yext is a great tool that lets you go into one interface and change things very quickly, and because of the relationships that it has with some of these data sources, it immediately changes that information. You don't have to wait for the refresh of that site's database. But Yext only goes to a certain number of sites. Yext does not hit a lot of the vertical business directories that are very important for car dealers. So if you're using Yext, make sure you're still checking the other sites that Yext doesn't hit. Because I talk to dealers all the time that say, oh, we don't have citation problems, we use Yext. And yeah, all the sites that Yext hits are perfect, but then all the other sites that Yext doesn't hit are a complete mess. Moving on, Google My Business. This used to be Google Places, almost 15% of the local search ranking factors. The most important thing you can do if you haven't done it is to claim your location, especially now because of the recent update. Google has deleted unclaimed listings. So if you never claimed the listing for your dealership, it's likely that that listing has been deleted. And like I mentioned earlier, with the new local stack, it's a lot harder to see these Google My Business pages, which means a lot of people are going to think they're not important, but the information that feeds into that local finder comes off your Google My Business page, so you've got to make sure that you've got it claimed. Now, if you're having problems claiming it, or if perhaps someone at the dealership claimed it back in the day and now no longer works there so you don't have access to it, you can use Google Phone Support. Again, there's an article here on Search Engine Land, bit.ly/google-phone-support. We'll walk you through how to do that. Now, one of the important tips in that article is how to avoid outsourced operators. Sometimes when you call, you'll get outsourced help from India. Now, they're still very helpful for the basic stuff, but they do really stick to the script. So if you get someone that's outsourced, a lot of times you can request a manager, or you can pop over and just call again and get somebody that's here in the States that will be willing to skip the script and really help you quickly. And here's a crazy stat right from Google. People are 38% more likely to visit your dealership and 29% more likely to consider buying from you if you've got a complete profile. Now, I would bet that now that the Google My Business pages are a little bit less visible, this number might go down. But it shows, because this is the first thing a lot of people see for you, it's really important that it's filled out. So when we went from Places to Google My Business, you went from a 200-character limit to a ginormous limit that nobody will ever hit. So make sure you're writing a super long description and that you're including formatting, because now you can do that. You can put bold and italics, and you can include links in your description, so make sure you do that. And you've got to make sure that the number in your listing is a local phone number and that that matches the number that's on your site. Also super important, like we mentioned earlier, that you're choosing the right categories. Super important that you upload a lot of photos to the listing, and please make sure that you're uploading a custom user image and a custom cover image. There's nothing worse than hitting a dealership's listing and seeing the default color swoosh. It shows that they're lazy and they don't care about what the public thinks. Moving on to reviews, almost 10% of the local search ranking factors. 88% of people now trust an online review from an absolute stranger equally as a review from someone that they know. So think about that. An absolute stranger's review is now equal in everyone's mind, or most people's minds, as something that they hear from friends or family. And 4 out of 5 people will decide not to buy from your dealership if your dealership has bad reviews. Now, unfortunately, you can't fake good reviews. And for any movie nerds that are out there paying attention right now, you're laughing. It's really funny that I used Ishtar as the background because it is famous for being the worst reviewed movie ever and the biggest stink burger of a movie ever.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe you added this one. Go ahead.
Inside movie joke there for all the movie nerds. And you can't fake caring about your customers. Okay? I tell this to dealers all the time. I cannot help you if you're a shady mofo. Okay? If you're going to be a shady mofo and you don't care about providing good customer service and doing the right thing, you're going to get crappy reviews, and I can't help you get good reviews. Now, here's a pro tip related to reviews. Your testimonials page on your website is completely worthless, 100% worthless. In fact, when I have dealers sign up to do SEO with us, we actually get rid of their testimonials page because nobody reads it, nobody cares. Everybody knows that your testimonials page is going to be filled with only the best of the glowing, super awesome 5-star reviews. They're not going to read through a page of 100 5-star reviews because they know that every review is going to say that you're awesome. People want to read unbiased reviews on a separate third-party website. They want to see, do you have any bad reviews? And if you do, how do you reply to those reviews? So if you want to get more reviews, you've got to look to yourself. You've got to remove the roadblocks, and you've got to ask people to leave you reviews. But you can't ask for people to leave you reviews on Yelp because that's against Yelp's terms of service, and it can get you in trouble with Yelp. But unfortunately, even though Yelp is something that really tends to be more of like a restaurant and hotel kind of thing, car dealers can't ignore Yelp because if somebody searches for you on an iPhone, the stars that show up on the iPhone are powered by Yelp, not by Google. So we'll see this all the time. This guy has 155 Google reviews and a 4.0 rating, but then somebody goes to look for him on their phone to figure out how to get to him, and they've got a 2-star review with only 24 reviews on Yelp. how much business is that guy going to lose because people look him up and say, oh, wow, this guy may not have great reviews after all. So here's a great strategy to help you get more positive reviews. You want to set up a reviews page on your website. So, dealership.com/reviews. And that page will say, hey, thanks for buying from us. We'd appreciate a review, all the things you normally say, and then have a link that links directly to your Google My Business page. So they don't have to figure out how to find you, especially now that those pages are a little bit harder to get to. You can link directly to it. And then you want to hand out postcards. You don't want a big handout that gives them a bunch of choices. You give them a postcard that says, thanks for buying from us. We'd love it if you leave us a review. Here's how you leave us a review. And it points them to that /review page that you just set up. Then the entire dealership knows, hand these cards out, send people to this page. But you have the ability to change the link on that reviews page to put reviews where you want them to go. And then you can follow up with an email or two. But be careful with automation, because there's nothing worse than sending an automated email to someone saying, hey, please leave us a review, if they just left you a review before they left, or before they got the email. You look like an idiot. And it's also super important that you concentrate on Google reviews. DealerRater's great for dealers. DealerRater's not so great for customers because nobody's heard of it. DealerRater doesn't show up on page 1 of Google. Google reviews show up on page 1 of Google. When people are searching for your dealership, your reviews pop up right there in the search results. That's the first reviews that people will see. Plus, Google reviews help you rank better in Google. You've got to go for Google reviews. Now, you've got to get at least 5 Google reviews to see stars, and this is another one of my tattoos, by the way. And you should go for at least 10 reviews before you target any other sites, because there's a little bit of a rankings boost that you get to when you get to 10 reviews. But really, you just want to make sure that you've got more reviews than any of your competitors do. But you want to make sure that you don't have too many more, because it looks fake. I've talked to several dealers that are like, oh yeah, we got a ton of Google reviews. We've got 685. Okay, well, that's great. And then you go look at all the other dealers in their area, and the next closest guy has 80. So if the other 4 or 5 dealers that you're competing against have 50, 60, 70, 80, and you've got 685, that actually looks fake. People are going to think you're faking your reviews. They're not going to think they're legitimate. And make sure you're not posting fake reviews. It's actually an FTC violation. It's a federal violation to post fake reviews. And there was a sting last October in New York where like $300,000 of fines got levied to different businesses that were faking reviews. Now look at this. Chuck right there says, great place to buy a car, see Chuck. Chuck is a sales guy working at a dealership leaving a review for the place that he works. That's against Google Terms of Service and can get you banned from Google. Second one there, the dealership decided to spiff all the sales guys. And so for every review that got left on Google that stuck, that had a sales guy's name in it, that sales guy got $50. So what happens? All the sales guys start faking reviews. It's free money. Well, this guy, Jacob, had a crappy experience, stewed about it all weekend, went in on a Monday to leave a bad review, and the most recent review he saw was a review that said it came from him and that it was a great experience. And now he's saying, Victor's posting fake posts under my name saying I like the experience so much, don't believe it. It was the biggest mistake of my life dealing with these people. There is no company out there that can help you with this. You're going to have to bury this with a ton of reviews. You look awful to anybody that reads this. Also, super important, do not copy reviews to your website. Google wants Google reviews to be unique. I've seen dealers take a really awesome review off of Google and go paste it onto the homepage of their site, and then when Google crawls their site again, it sees that review there word for word, and it'll actually filter it off of your Google My Business page, and you just made your dealership lose a review. Also, super important to reply to every negative review you get. Well, almost every negative review. Because sometimes if you reply to a nut job, it just makes things worse. It's like the old saying, it's like wrestling with a pig. You both get covered in shit, and the pig likes it. Okay? If it's a nut job, you don't want to reply. But other than that, you want to try to reply to every possible negative review. And you want to make sure that you're replying to negative reviews quickly, and positive reviews quickly for that matter. And make sure that your replies are short and well written, and you should not send review replies that sound canned. Don't say the same thing every time, it sounds fake. And final poll question time.
I'm here. Here we go. Okay, audience, last poll question is on the screen now. I know. I'm exhausted too. Okay.
We're almost done.
Now that the presentation is almost done, are you now reconsidering your SEO strategy? Do you think that there's some things you got to change, or you think you're doing okay? Please select one of the following answers. OMG, yes. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do. Maybe we're doing okay, I think. Nah, who needs SEO? We're just here to sell cars. And I already sent Greg an email. Greg, please help me. Okay, so again, now that the presentation's almost done, Are you reconsidering your current SEO strategy? Yes, yeah, we have a lot of work to do. Maybe, no, or God, Greg, I need help now. You are my man. Please be my huckleberry. Okay, once we get a majority of votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results, and then we have an awesome Q&A coming your way after that. Okay, votes are almost all in. We do appreciate it. Greg hopefully is getting himself a little drink of water right now while we're doing this poll question. And by the way, Greg, seriously, ridiculous, awesome slide deck. Ridiculous, just amazing. And I am reliving my childhood through all of these great movies that you pulled. Okay, let's close this poll and share the results. Audience, thank you so much for answering all of our poll questions. And what do we have here? 20% of today's audience said, oh my God, yes. 39% of today's audience said, yes, we definitely have a lot of work to do. Another 39% said, well, maybe we're doing okay, kind of, I think. No one said the fourth answer, which is who needs SEO? Otherwise, why would you be here? But the remaining 2%, Greg, said they already sent you an email. Please send help. Greg?
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to burn through the rest of these real quick because I know we are running short on time. Finishing up with the next biggest piece here, social signals are almost 6% of the local search ranking factors. And I got to tell you again, most dealerships really suck at this. Okay, seriously, do not just talk about your dealership. People don't care. They don't follow you so that you can sit there and talk about all the crap that's going on at your dealership. Okay, don't just share links to your inventory. Super boring. If I come by an F-150, I don't want to see a bunch of links to F-150s on your social streams. That doesn't matter to me. And don't just share your brand feed. I see this a lot with Ford. Ford has a great feed that goes out, but if that's the only thing that's coming from your dealership, you look exactly like every other Ford dealer in your area on Facebook. Okay, you've got to post some unique stuff. You've got to post some interesting stuff that's actually about your dealership, not just about the brand in general. And please, I'm going to let you read that so you get the joke. Don't use no bad grammar or spelling. I see this all the time. Dealerships, whoever's posting for the dealership uses poor grammar, or they put something in all caps, or they spell things incorrectly. That's a reflection on your dealership. So make sure that you're using correct grammar and you're spelling things the right way. Also, please do not use hashtags on Facebook. Hashtags are not for Facebook. It makes you look like a noob. People don't use hashtags on Facebook. And please don't use 50 hashtags anywhere. And please do not tether Facebook to Twitter. Twitter lets you tether Facebook so that you can just type something into Facebook and it auto-posts to Twitter. You can use something like Hootsuite or Buffer or anything like that that lets you post to multiple places from one location. But when you do the tether, whenever you share a photo in Facebook, it does not share the photo in Twitter. It just shares a link to Facebook to go view the photo, and that is a really flat-out awful user experience. So here's a crazy idea. Why not just use social media to actually be social? Because, you know, it's called social media. It's not called buy crap from me media. So when you're sharing things, you need to drive interaction on Facebook. Because the way that Facebook's algorithm works, the more that somebody interacts with your post, the more likely they are to see your stuff in the future. So if you're sharing all the crap I just talked about that people won't care about, they're not going to interact with your post. And very quickly, you'll hit a situation where you're posting all these posts and nobody's going to see it. Your reach is going to be awful. So you should follow the 80-20 rule. 80% of your posts should be posts that are strictly designed to drive engagement. They don't have to be sales and marketing. It's just interesting or funny or cool things. And then the other remaining 20% is your sales and marketing posts. And because the 80% is driving your engagement, people will be more likely to see what you're sharing when you're sharing your sales and marketing stuff. So hopefully your heads are not hurting, and hopefully I did not spit out so much information that I blew your minds. And for those of you that have not seen scanners, what happens directly after that is this.
Oh, gosh, not that.
So with all of the tips that I shared for you today, hopefully now you guys will all be really, really, really excited about local SEO. So that was 85 gnarly local SEO tips for auto dealers. There's my contact info. You can follow me on Twitter I live tweet all the conferences I go to, and I am speaking at 9 conferences in the next 2 months, so you can get a ton of free, helpful SEO up-to-date information from me, or shoot me an email at ggifford@dealeron.com. I do have a list here when you download the deck of all of the links in one place, either for the tools or for the articles that I shared. And for a couple of takeaways, make sure that you have awesome content and not the same crap that everybody else has. Optimize your content with local signals. Get local links. Clean up your citations. Make sure your Google My Business listing is optimized. Solidify a really good review strategy. And finally, stop sucking on social media.
Well, there you have it, audience. That was, I know you said 85, but that was more like 130, it seemed. But wow, we have amazing reviews already coming in. Audience, if you haven't gotten in your questions yet for the wonderful Greg Gifford, you're missing out, because you know what? He's here to help you. So get your questions in and let's get you some help, okay? Greg, you stick around for a little bit. Go get yourself a little bit of a drink. Before we get to the questions, we have a little bit of fun to take care of. So it's that time. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, I announced that our good friends at AutoHook are actually sponsoring this week's webinar giveaway. AutoHook is a showroom traffic driver. They've built the ultimate attribution engine. It tracks the customer through the lead, showroom visit, and purchase, and then delivers a cost per sale that's best in the industry. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a $250 e-gift card from AutoHook. Literally, they email it to you like within an hour once I give them your name. It is incredible. So you're going to have $250 to spend literally by the end of the day, all right? All you have to do is answer a simple question about the presentation that you just saw. So I hope you took great notes. Vendors, please sit this one out. You know we love you and we're very, very appreciative for your attendance today, but this prize is, in fact, intended for dealership personnel only. But we do appreciate you, okay? So good luck, everyone. Saunter up to your keyboards. Here we go. How many gnarly 80s movie references did Greg Gifford make during today's Dealer On webinar presentation? Holy moly. Let me scroll up. Oh, my gosh. And for you kids who weren't here super early, he actually said the number. He actually said how many movie references he was making. So let me scroll up here, and I am happy to report that today's winner is, in fact, Jim Bell. Congratulations, Jim Bell. So happy that you are today's Dealer On webinar prize winner. Jim Bell, write me up all of your information and send it in. Of course, thank you to everyone for playing along. We give away great prizes every week, so come on back. Next week could be the week you win an awesome Dealer On webinar prize. Jim Bell, congratulations. Okay, I will do that. He sent me his email address. And of course, we want to thank our great friends over at AutoHook for their incredible generosity. So thank you so much for that. All right, Greg, I hope you got something to drink because it's time for those great questions from the audience.
Well, really quick to let everybody know, if you download the deck, I did include a list of all the movies by release date. So it really was 186, and you can go back and check out the list if you want to get it.
Unreal. By the way, if you missed it at the beginning of the webinar also, I placed the deck inside the handouts section of GoToWebinar, so you can download it directly through your GoToWebinar interface. Or, as Greg had pointed out earlier, he did give you a bit.ly link, so you can also go there and download it from there. Right, Greg? What was that bit.ly link again? Bit.ly
I don't remember. bit.ly/gnarly-local-SEO-tips. Right
there you go. There you go. So you have two ways to get it. All right. All right. Greg, are you ready for your first question? We're going to go in order. All right.
Well, let's do it. I guess I should turn the camera on, huh?
Yeah, you can turn on the camera. Let them see that beautiful mug of yours. Okay. Your first question comes to you. Hey, how you doing? Okay, your first question comes to you from Bruce. And I think you covered this a little bit, but it bears repeating, okay? So they had a competing website provider show them that their Dealer On site had only 1,240 pages indexed in Google, and that a similar Nissan dealer hosted by their company had something ridiculous like 36,000 pages indexed. He showed me that they build content pages for 10 different markets with hundreds of keywords. And I checked one of his content pages. Nissan fuel pump at dealership name, Nissan, serving city name, right?
Right. That example that I showed earlier that had 66,000, I'm not going to mention the name of the provider because I don't like to trash other people live, but if we were at a conference, I'd pull them to the side and go, I know exactly who you're talking about. It's this provider, and that's who you're using, and I can tell you that that's not a good strategy.
Yes.
That's something that worked 4 or 5 years ago. It does not work anymore. So, hey, if you want to go with them, that's great, but I can tell you it's not going to work.
Well, and that's his question. He says, Google shows me 52,000 results for this ridiculous link. So question is, can all that duplicate content help or hurt your SEO?
Hurt. It will hurt you for sure because they're going to do that, that same Nissan fuel pump, they'll write it for, 15 different models for you, and then they do that for every single customer that they have. So that goes to every dealership's website times 15, which is thousands and thousands and thousands. That doesn't help you at all. Why would that help you? How would that help you? Google wants to see that you have useful, unique content. And that content's not even useful for your site because it's the same content with just the model name switched out 15 times on your site. That's not good content. That doesn't work.
That doesn't work. Okay, in this case, quantity is not going to be your friend, Bruce. But thank you so much for the great question. Okay, your next question. Oh, actually, it's a statement. Came to you from Christopher. He says, by the way, I enjoyed Greg's blog about Comic-Con just the other day. So thank you for that. Carolina, oh, well, she has the question of the day, I think. She says, so how do you make sure to end up in the 3-pack? Well, that is the question, isn't it, Greg?
Showing up in the 3-pack is going to be extremely difficult, and that's probably what my next presentation will be about. But really, all the stuff that I just talked about today is all the stuff you need to do. It's going to be, it was incredibly competitive in most markets to show up in the 7-pack. It's ridiculously competitive to show up in the 3-pack. In fact, most of the time I would tell dealers to not even worry about it because it's probably not going to happen. If you think about it, you're competing with, in any regular-sized market, you've got all of the new car dealers, and sure, maybe there's only 5 Toyota dealerships in the city, but you've got 5 Toyota dealerships that are fighting for 3 spots. You're going to have to be better than the other 4 in every aspect of what I talked about today if you want to show up in that pack.
Okay, Carolina, thank you for the great question. Rochelle had a similar question. She says, when you were talking about the 7-pack and that it was reduced to a 3-pack and then you have to click and then you get onto the 10-pack. Okay, so she said, well, what does that mean for us? Which I believe you already answered that question. Rochelle had a follow-up question, though. She says, also, is it true that content on mobile apps won't rank you?
That is not true. Google is actually working on indexing app content, so it's moving in a direction where you can have a mobile app and have content in there, and potentially you could have that content show up in Google, but I would not worry about that because who's going to use the app for your dealership? Nobody. It won't happen. I would definitely strongly suggest that you spend time worrying about the content on your website and not trying to get some content on your app to work, because you are much more likely to get the content on your website to rank, especially now until that really becomes prevalent.
Thank you so much. Okay, now it's funny that you're just rolling right into Rochelle's next question. She says, I get the idea of being unique, but I heard that Google doesn't penalize for duplicate content. So what if we are publishing blogs from the manufacturer? Is that going to help us or harm us?
So technically, Google does not penalize for duplicate content, but it rewards unique content. So you could look at it the same way you look at links. Google penalizes for link manipulation, which also in turn means it rewards people that don't have bad links. So while Google doesn't penalize for duplicate content, it rewards people that don't have duplicate content. So if you've got blog posts that the manufacturer has on its own blog, instead of posting that same post on your blog, you should write a summary of the post and say, hey, look, check it out. There's this really awesome post that just came out from Ford over on the Ford blog. Here's our take on what's important about it. If you want to read the whole post, click here and then link to it. And then you could share your own summary post. We just did that on the Dealer On blog recently. I wrote the post on Search Engine Land about marketing lessons that I learned when I was at Comic-Con. And on the Dealer On blog, we posted a little blurb about it and said, hey, here's this really great post that Greg just wrote. You know, we think it's a really valuable post that a lot of car dealerships would benefit from, and here's why it ties into car dealerships. Click here to read the whole post. And that way we're not posting a duplicate. We're posting, you know, important takeaways from that article and then linking to the article, and that's the way you should do it.
All right. Thank you so much for the great questions, Rochelle. If you have some more, keep them coming. All right. Next question comes from today's winner, Jim Bell. He says, well, now, from what his question says, it sounds like he's with a competing webinar provider. So I'm just going to read his question. Let's see if you can help him. He says, our website URL for used cars is dealer.com/used-vehicles. Are you saying we should maybe change it to dealer.com/used-the kind of cars-city?
If you have the ability to. Some providers do not allow you to change the URLs on your inventory list pages. So if the provider that you're with allows you to set a unique URL for that, then definitely yes. But some providers don't let you change it, and if that's the case, well, hey, like I said, it's just one small piece of the puzzle, and if you can't do that piece, make sure you kick ass on all the other pieces. But if you do have the ability to change that, then definitely, you never want to target used vehicles for anything. You should never have used vehicles on your site because people don't type used vehicles into Google. People don't type used trucks. They'll type in used cars. So never say pre-owned, never say used vehicles, always say used cars. So instead of used dash vehicles, it should be used dash cars dash whatever your city is dash whatever your state is. That would be the optimal thing to do.
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Jim. Okay, next question comes to you from Dawn. She says, should our local phone number be in the header?
Yeah, you definitely want your phone number in the header so that it's visible at the top of every page because, again, everything you do should have that focus of what am I doing on my site to make this the best user experience possible. And if somebody has a question or somebody wants to convert and schedule a test drive or call you and figure out when they can come by or make an appointment, you don't want to have them try to figure out, oh, where do I go? Do I have to look around on the site or do I need to go figure out where their contact us page and click over there and hope that they have it there? Have that phone number up in the header of every page. I would suggest having your phone number in the header, in the footer, and then actually in the content as well on every page.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you. Great question, Don. Next question comes to you from Jeff. He says, we recently talked to Google about them directly setting up PPC with us, and they suggested putting a tracking number on the site. Why would they suggest that if it isn't a great idea?
Now, Google supports tracking numbers when it comes to PPC. That's a different thing. So it's okay for you to have the tracking numbers with the Google PPC because Google wants to be able to track how many calls you're getting from those pay-per-click ads, and they'll also set up tracking numbers that are unique tracking numbers that show up in the PPC so that then you can track what numbers you're getting directly or what calls you're getting directly out of the SERPs. So Google's going to definitely push call tracking on you for pay-per-click related terms because they want you to see how many conversions you're getting so that they can get you to spend more money with them. But Google's not telling you at that point that that means you put a call tracking number throughout your site. They're probably suggesting that you have dynamic number insertion so that whenever somebody hits your website coming from a pay-per-click ad, it will substitute out that call tracking number.
Oh, boy. Okay. Jeff, great question. We have some more questions from Jeff a little bit later on. Okay, Bruce is back. He's asking, should we be using the pipe character in our meta tags?
If you're talking about the title, then yes, it is usually best practice to use the pipe character in between phrases. I would not suggest using it anywhere else.
Oh, okay. So not in the meta tags, only in the title tag.
Only in the title tag, but yes, you shouldn't really use it in your meta description. It doesn't really make sense to do it there.
Okay, thank you so much, Bruce. Next question comes to you from Ray. He says, should the blog be on the website or separate, or does it matter?
That is an excellent question. Again, this is one of those that depends on your provider. The optimal setup is to have the blog be on your site. So it would be, for example, you know,
ABC
Jim
Ford.
Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Bob Ford is my go-to though.
Okay, sorry.
If there really is a Jim Bob Ford, that guy gets tons of free advertising from me. JimBobFord.com/blog. You know, but unfortunately, a lot of providers don't have the ability, because they've got their whole system set up the way that it is. They don't have the ability to run WordPress on the actual servers, which means you have to have WordPress set up externally somewhere else. And in those cases, it's going to have to be a subdomain. So what we do in those cases is we set up someone with blog.jimbobford.com instead of www. So it's on a subdomain. It's not as good as having it on the same root domain, but it's better than having it on a completely separate URL.
Got it. All right. Great question, Ray. Thank you. Jeff has his follow-up question here. He says, do you have a good example of a blog from a car dealer that we can reference?
I have several, but nothing I can think of off the top of my head. I'd have to pull up the customer list to show you. But if you want to shoot me an email, I can send you a list of a bunch that you can see.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Your next question comes from Bruce. And I think he probably wrote this question before you actually covered it. But here we go. How does a car dealer get quality links?
That's definitely something you'd want to go check out my post on Search Engine Land for. There's a lot of information on how to get quality local links. But, I mean, really, it's just all the stuff I talked about in the presentation. Take advantage of the things that you're already doing. Take advantage of the relationships that you already have, and target a lot of local businesses and websites. And that's the best, easiest thing to say without really getting into a very, very long, convoluted answer.
Thank you.
Link building is probably the most difficult part of SEO.
Yeah, because you can't automate it.
Right, and that's a lot of providers, a lot of automotive SEO providers actually don't do anything with link building because it is so difficult and it's very time intensive. And the way that these guys, and mom and pops as well, not just automotive, but a lot of the ways that the cheaper SEO providers keep their costs down is they just don't do link building, and that's how they can offer it for so cheap, because they're not doing that very time intensive task.
Okay. All right, your next question comes from Lisa. She says, we have all of our reviews on our website, the good, the bad, and the ugly, on the website, Greg. So is that a good thing to do or not?
Nobody's going to read them. People will, if they see that you have a testimonials or reviews page on your site, they may glance at it if they do anything, but most of the time they're just not even going to go there, because they're going to assume before they even go there that you're only showing the best of the best reviews. So it's probably not going to be very worthwhile. But here's the thing. If you do show bad reviews on there, why the heck would you want to do that? If you have some nut job come in and have a bad experience, or maybe the service advisor that he was working with had a bad day and screwed up, and that guy had an awful experience, do you want to put that on your site and let the world see that you guys screwed the pooch and gave somebody a really crappy experience? If that latest review or the latest couple of reviews are bad reviews and somebody does happen to glance at the page, then you're scaring people off. So I would think that's probably not a very good idea.
Okay, Lisa, good luck. All right, your next question comes from Kinney, who has been tweeting out all day today.
Thanks,
He
Kinney.
says, what value do you see in the video customer review on the YouTube coupled with the online reviews on Google or cars.com, etc.? What do you think about video customer reviews? Good,
I
bad?
think those are great, and that would be the one time I would tell you to put reviews on your own site, is when you have the video stuff, because people, for some reason, will actually go through and watch those videos. Now, you don't need 500, you don't need 100, you don't need 50. You can have 2 or 3 on there, or you can make a little kind of, montage of a couple of people and put that as one video. But it's definitely got some value. Video is kind of the wave of the future, and that stuff's really awesome. As far as putting it on YouTube, that's great. If you're going to put videos on your own site and make a big play for video, I would suggest using a company called Wistia. It's a third-party hosting company that gives you a lot more control and a lot more analytics on your videos than you would get through YouTube. So if you've got questions about Wistia, let me know. I can jump on the phone. I can show you. It's awesome. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just love them. And I would suggest doing that. Putting it on YouTube can be okay. Potentially somebody could search for, the name of your dealership in reviews, and maybe the video might show up in the search results, but that's more of something you're not really doing for SEO, you're doing it for user experience.
Right. Okay, Kenny, thank you so much for the great question. All right, Greg, your next question comes in from Tommy. He says, is it okay to have friends, family, or coworkers leave reviews on Facebook, Google, or Yelp? Star ratings with or without comments. Is that okay?
Did they actually buy from you?
Tommy? I don't know.
If they bought from you, great. If they didn't buy from you, then technically you're breaking the law because you're asking someone to leave a fake review. If they did not do business with your dealership and they're leaving a review saying how great your dealership is, then that is not a legitimate review because they didn't actually do business with your dealership.
What if they came in, bought parts, or what if they came in and they did service? Did they have to buy a car?
Well, I mean, they could be a service review, so I mean, they could come in and get an oil change and write a review about your oil change, but it's just you're treading on thin ice when you just say, hey, I'm just going to go ask all my friends and family to leave a review of my dealership, because if they didn't buy from you, then that can be problematic. Okay. Now, does that mean you're going to get caught? No. A lot of people do it. A lot of people don't get caught. But if you do get caught and there's some sort of government sting like what happened in New York last year in the fall, and you get hit with, you get caught, let's say you have, I don't know what the per review fine is, but let's say you have a significant number of reviews that are found out to be fake because that person never purchased there, and you end up getting a $50,000 or $100,000 fine for the dealership. Was it really worth it to get an extra 5 or 6 reviews? Probably not.
Thank you, Greg. All right, Tommy, let me know if you have a follow-up question. All right, it's a comment that came in from Ray. He says, this was by far the best webinar I've ever attended, and I go to a lot of them. Thanks. He's not alone. We have a lot of other people who've been writing in saying what an incredible presentation this is. And honestly, I'm not going to disagree with them. This is really incredible. Oh, my girlfriend, Bobby. Hi, how you doing, Bobby? Bobby wrote in. She wrote in, hashtag whatever. I love a good hashtag, Greg. But then she did have a follow-up question. So I'm going to give you Bobby's question. She says, I'm using call tracking with local numbers that rotate based on how the customer found us. It's based on scripting on my site, but shows in Google results as the real local non-tracking number. Is that helping me or is it hurting me?
This is a very complicated answer. It's probably going to confuse the heck out of everybody that's listening, but technically you should be okay with that. But those numbers still tend to bleed out into the ecosystem and can be bad.
Really?
Ideally, the best way, if you're doing call tracking, most of the time when I talk to dealers, they're doing call tracking because they always have, and they never really look at their reports and never do anything. But I know that Bobby actually uses her report. She's one of the rare dealers that pays attention to that sort of thing. The best way to do call tracking, if you're actually going to use the data, is to find a provider that lets you have a local area code tracking number and that you own that local area code tracking number. So if you decide to switch providers, you get to keep the same number. So those two things are incredibly important. And then you make sure that you're doing all of your call tracking with a single phone number. And then you get your attribution of source from the transcription on the call. So typically somebody's going to call in and say, I'm calling about the F-150 that I saw on AutoTrader, or hey, I saw this on cars.com, or hey, I saw this on eBay, or whatever it would be. Because it gets into the conversation, it gets into the transcription, and then it gets into your metrics. When you start switching different numbers out, if you do it with that dynamic JavaScript code, you're technically still okay. But then what happens if somebody writes a blog post or writes a comment somewhere else and puts that number out there, and now they've got your number that comes from AutoTrader, even though that's not really an AutoTrader visit, and that could still potentially lead to issues and typically does lead to problems in the long run. But again, someone like Bobby is very on top of these sorts of things and would catch it if it happened and could fix it quickly, so she's probably okay.
Bobby did answer you. She says, we use it for analytics and to listen to the calls in real time, and we have our sales managers call back. But I loved your answer, and it makes perfect sense to me. Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. Okay, next question. Comes from Lisa. She says, really, Greg, why not use hashtags on Facebook? They are everywhere. And I have to admit, when you said that, I actually use hashtags on Facebook, but it's only for comedic stuff. It's not because I'm actually thinking somebody's going to hashtag that stuff. But aside from that, let's get to Lisa's actual question. She says, at this time, I'm unable to convince management to get local phone on website. I still have 800 numbers. Would it help to at least add the local number into the header?
Yes. If you have a situation where you've got both and you can still use both, you want to make sure one of the important signals Google looks at is that the number on your Google My Business listing matches the number that's listed on the page that you're linking to, which is typically your home page. So if you've got a local number on Google and only 800 numbers on your site, then there's a mismatch there, and that's bad. So if you can at least get that number over there, then that's great. And then when you're doing your schema markup on everything, mark up the number that's the local number with schema, and then just have the 800 numbers hanging out with no schema on them, and that's the best way to kind of deal with that situation.
Excellent, excellent. Oh, good. There's a workaround. All right, great. Thank you for the great question, Lisa. Next question comes to you from Rochelle. She says, do you believe in promoting posts on Facebook? Of course, you're not just an SEO guru, you also do social. So what do you think about Facebook promoted posts?
What kind of posts? Can we ask her that?
Rochelle, do you believe in promoting posts on Facebook? I don't know.
Like just in general, or do you mean specific kinds of posts?
Well, she didn't answer me quite yet, and we do have a lot of people waiting.
Let me do it this way. If you're talking about just in general, are promoted posts a good idea? Heck, yes, they are. They're awesome. They're super cheap. Even beyond promoting posts, doing the paid advertising on Facebook is incredibly powerful. It converts well. It's very exact. You can do some super awesome things with it. Now, if you're talking about promoting posts, it depends what kind of post you're talking about. If it's your goofy, hey, this happened at the dealership today, who's got a funny caption for this photo, I wouldn't pay to promote that. If it's, hey, we've got the Summer of Audi sales event and it starts today and it lasts for a month, maybe you promote that one. If it's, hey, check out the pictures from the golf tournament we did last Saturday, I wouldn't promote that. It's, you know, use your best discretion when it's something that's really share worthy. I wouldn't pay to promote something that isn't something that really, really matters to you.
Right.
And you don't want to share something that's goofy or kind of pointless. A lot of the times when you're doing those engagement posts, they are a little bit more on the goofy, or like, here's a crazy fact, or hey, it's Throwback Thursday, here's a really old Mustang, here's a cool photo. Like, I'm not going to go pay to promote that because who cares? It's more of like, if you're doing, I was talking to a Ford dealership the other day, and they've got the Drive One for Your School promotion thing where you go and partner with a local high school and do the test drive, and for all the test drives, money gets donated to the school. I would definitely go push that out and promote that out to the city, because that's something that's like, hey, look, it's community involvement. This is awesome. Do this and help support this high school. Heck yeah, promote the heck out of that post.
Okay, I totally agree. I think if it affects your bottom line or affects the community, that might be something worthy of a promoted post. Thank you so much. Great question, Rochelle. Audience, we have a ton of great questions still coming in from you, and we also have a ton of you still on this call. I know it's going late, but if you hang with me, I'm going to get to your questions, all right? Next question, Greg, comes to you from Eric. He says, can you talk about using vanity URLs and if they affect SEO?
They do not anymore. There was an update from Google called the Exact Match Domain update that came out. Back in the day, you could do usedcarsdallas.com for your dealership, and you'd rank #1 for Used Cars Dallas just because those keywords are right there in the URL. But Google obviously figured out that was something easy to kind of cheat the system with, and maybe you didn't necessarily deserve to rank there. So now it doesn't really matter. You're not going to just automatically rank because you've got those keywords in your domain name. So, I mean, as far as using a vanity URL, it's kind of up to you and what your marketing plan is. A lot of times I'll tell dealerships you want to try to get the shortest, easiest to spell URL that you can. So if you're like Jim Bob's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Dallas.com, that's a giant URL. You don't want people to have to try to do that in. So, do jimbobsjeep.com or jimbobchrysler.com or whatever. You don't have to get all of your different brands into your URL. You don't have to get your city in URL. You don't even have to have a URL that has your dealership name. Do what makes sense for your marketing plan, and don't look at that as, oh my gosh, I need to do this for my SEO, because it's not really going to matter.
Okay, great question, Eric. Thank you so much. Hope that helps you. All right, Greg, your next question comes to you from Anthony. He says, what do you think about video content to help with SEO, such as video walkarounds, service videos, etc.?
This is kind of the same answer as the other video question earlier. It's great. It's awesome for users. It's awesome for conversions. It doesn't do a whole lot for SEO anymore. Before Google pulled the thumbnails out of search results, you could have, Ford F-150 walk around or Ford F-150, and if you had a video, then that video would show up and you get the thumbnail that shows that there's a video right there in the search results, which would visually attract you to that listing, and you click on it and see it. But it doesn't show those video thumbnails anymore. So it may help if you put those up on YouTube, because then people could potentially be searching YouTube and finding them. But really, this is another one of those things that I say, do this because it helps you convert. Don't do this because you think it's going to help with SEO.
Gotcha. Thank you. Great question, Anthony. Next is a comment from Chris. He says, is that a Freddy figurine on your shelf? Very nice.
Sure is.
Very nice. Yeah. He's a fan.
And listen.
Oh yeah, that's not creepy whatsoever. Okay. Getting back.
Yeah, my 5-year-old, when he comes into the office to see me, I always have to hide it before he comes in because he's terrified of it.
I'm kind of terrified of it now too. Okay. Thanks, Chris. All right, still a ton of questions left. Stephanie is the next one up. She says, how much is good SEO on website going to help getting into the 3-pack, or is it more a GMB ranking?
Oh, it's very much, after that Penguin update, that was another one of the pieces of Penguin last summer, was that the map pack results moved in a direction that use a lot more of the traditional web ranking factors. So in the past, it was a lot more like what you had on your GMB listing and your citations and things like that, and now it's a lot more related to, do you have good content? Do you have good links? So getting into that pack is really related to all the stuff that I talked about today.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Oh, just wanted you to know, Chris wrote back and he said, that Freddy is awesome. That's my next tattoo. Okay.
That's awesome. You guys should see my tattoos. I got all sorts of awesome movie ones.
I bet you do.
I got to show you.
Only the live audience can see this. Oh, that's the one. That's Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, Young Frankenstein, James Bond, and I'm working on Die Hard right now.
Nice. And you're going to get that bubblegum one too, right?
Yeah, that guy, Roddy Piper, he's going right here.
No, he has them all planned out. All right, let's get to these last 10 or so questions. Okay, Celeste. Chris says we would get along quite well, Greg. Very nice. Okay, Celeste.
Chris, if you're going to Digital Dealer, find me and we'll hang out and have some beers.
Excellent. I highly admit he's a lot of fun at. Oh, he said nice. He's going to do that. Okay. Celeste is up next. Celeste, your question is, we have one dealer that shows up twice in our 3-pack by having their actual name and a made-up name. Why doesn't Google pick up on that?
Who asked this question?
Celeste.
Celeste, please, right now, immediately send me an email and show me what that search is. This is the sort of stuff I love to find and check on. Maybe you picked up on it, maybe you didn't. I'm one of the 40 people that's involved in that local search ranking factor study every year. This is the sort of stuff that me and all my local search nerd friends love to find and diagnose and figure out how it happens, especially after the update where now there's only 3. So if that's working and it's legitimately done, I would love to see it so that I can diagnose it and tell you.
Celeste?
Without looking at it, I have no way of knowing, but please, please, please send that to me. I would love to see that.
Yeah, and that is ggifford@dealeron.com. Celeste, we're counting on you. Don't let us down, okay? All right, your next question, Greg, comes to you from Mark. Mark says, if you change the URL to include city and state, does that affect your current page rankings? If you change the URL to include your city and state?
Again, like I've said on a couple other of these questions, any of these things by themselves in a vacuum are not enough to change your rankings, but when you do all of them together, that's what matters over time. So if you're just going to go change your URLs and do nothing else, well then no, it's not going to do anything to change your rankings. But if you do all the stuff that I talked about today and include changing your URLs in that, then yes, that could potentially help you rank better and get more visibility. But if you're going to go change the URLs to the pages that you have, you've got to make sure that you're setting up 301 redirects. Because if you've got any links out there that are pointed to your inventory page from other websites that are hard-coded on those sites, and then you go change your inventory page link, then if somebody's on that other site and they click that link, now it's going to be a broken link. So you've got to set up 301s to make sure that you don't lose any of that traffic or any of that link value.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, great question, Mark. Thank you so much. All right, next question comes to you from Casey. Casey says, we have one dealership with several Google My Business pages that I figured would be best to claim them rather than let them be out there with faulty information. How can I get this down to one Google My Business page without just deleting my ownership of the page and it still being out there? I hope that makes sense.
Makes total sense. If you had somebody like me, I could take care of it for you. It sounds like you're handling things internally there yourself. I would definitely go to Google Phone Support. So there was that one link in there that talked about how to get to Google Phone Support. If you call Google Phone Support, you want to make sure you don't get an outsourced guy because they're going to try to follow a script, and this is one of those outlying cases. But if you call up and you get somebody that's US-based and you tell them exactly that, hey, look, there's a bunch of listings. They just existed, so we went and claimed them. And actually what would have happened if they had remained unclaimed, they would now have been deleted. But since you claimed them, which you should have done back in the day so you control them, now you could call Phone Support and say, look, we've got all these listings. They're all under my one account. I need to merge all of them. You know, this has to go away. I don't need separate listings, and they will help you. Because if you have duplicate listings, that actually is a bad signal and can hurt how you're ranking.
Okay, Casey, good luck with that, sir. Okay, your next question comes to you from Lisa. She says, we put all of our reviews on our website to show that we're real. It looks obvious when websites only show the good ones. But what about instead of posting all the reviews, we just have links to our review sites to read the reviews? Would that be better?
That's the way to do it. Yep, that's definitely the way to do it. So instead of having a testimonials page that shows all your reviews, say, you know, hey, we know you'd like to see what people think about us, so you can head over here to read our reviews on these various sites, and then just include a bunch of links and let people go choose where they want to read it.
Love it. Okay, Lisa, great idea. Good luck with that. Okay, Bobby wrote back in. She says, commenting on Celeste, who says that she knows of somebody who shows up twice in a 3-pack. She says, I have this for our store, one showing up as the dealership and one showing as the body shop in the 3-pack.
Well, that's because one's a dealership listing and one's a body shop listing, so that's totally possible. But it depends on, I mean, what I would be curious, Bobby, what the search query is that shows both of those. Is it something like brand, dealer, and city? Or is it just a general car dealership or auto repair or something like that? Which we'll see if she answers back.
It's New Buick Saginaw. New Buick Saginaw.
Yeah, so you're searching for Buick Saginaw, and so since you've got a Buick Saginaw dealership and a Buick Saginaw repair shop or body shop, then that's why both of those will show up. If you just did something more general, you're not going to have both of them show up. But you know, especially if, I don't know how big Saginaw is, but if there's no other Buick dealers there, well then, hey, that's definitely why, because there's just no competition. Or maybe there's only one other dealership, so of course you're going to get both of those listings. But if it's like a super, super competitive city with like 10 Buick dealerships, that probably wouldn't happen.
Right. I am curious, though. I think this is slightly different than what Celeste is saying, because she's saying that they come up twice and they're using a made-up name. So. Right. But thank you so much for that, Bobby. Very, very interesting. Take care and good luck. All right, our next question comes to you from Kinney. Hi, Kinney. Kinney says, having your reviews linked in to your VDPs, good or bad?
No, that can be really good. It's not really something that matters for SEO as much as it does for, again, user experience. If you guys haven't seen this, DealerOn does this on all the VDPs where it feeds in both reviews for the dealership. It also feeds in reviews on that model car. So since those model reviews are fed in and marked up with schema, a lot of times when you do a search for a specific year, make, model in a city, if there's a dealer on dealer in that city, that dealer is going to get the review stars showing up in the search results, which makes that vehicle stand out from other dealerships because it's got stars when nobody else does. So there's a huge benefit on that side to get more click-throughs. But even on the reviews that you feed in, if you're feeding in something like typically you're going to feed in like a dealer rater widget or something like that, that's going to be iframed in, so it's not going to show up to Google to really help with any kind of an SEO thing. But again, this is one of those things we don't really care about SEO. We do it because if somebody's searching around and they stumble across this and this is their entrance into your dealership because they were searching your make, model, city, they see this and they're browsing and they're looking at the page and then they see those awesome reviews for your dealership, well then heck yeah, that's going to give them more of a reason to call you. So it's good for conversions, something we don't really care so much about SEO-wise.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, Kenny, thank you so much. All right, Greg, your next question is from Shannon. Shannon's been waiting a while. She says, in the H1, should we say full name of dealership or just Toyota dealer?
I would vary it between. I wouldn't put Toyota dealer on every page.
Give me the H1 for Jim Bob's Toyota dealership.
Well, I mean, it just depends. I mean, your H1 should be what your page is about. I wouldn't really worry about getting the name of your dealership onto all your H1s. A lot of dealers really do, the ones that aren't so great at SEO or don't know much about it, try to put their dealership name everywhere they can. Thing is, you don't really need to optimize for your dealership name because you're the only dealership named that. So if you're Jim Bob Ford, you don't need to put Jim Bob Ford everywhere through your site because you are Jim Bob Ford and there is no other Jim Bob Ford, so you don't really have to optimize that hard for it. When you're doing your optimization, that's when you're trying to push those local signals out, so you want the city and state, and then you're trying to optimize for the keywords that you're really trying to be competitive on, and there's really no competition on your dealership name. So I wouldn't really put that in there very often. But sometimes it makes sense. If you have like a rebates and incentive page, you could have your H1 say something like, check out the current rebates and incentives from Jim Bob Ford or available at Jim Bob Ford. So maybe in that case, or like your About Us page, learn more about Jim Bob Ford and what we do, or your Contact Us page. Got a question? Contact Jim Bob Ford. But, you know, on other pages, I don't know that it's really important to waste that space by shoving in your dealership name.
Thank you. Great points. Okay, last couple of items to get through here. Colin wrote in, will this webinar be available for replay? Oh, heck yeah. This is awesome. Absolutely. We are recording it right now, and I'm going to send everyone the link later tonight. And it will also be available on dealeron.com/webinar. Just look on the link on the right-hand side for on-demand webinars. The most recent webinar, this one, will be at the top. All right. And last question, no, not a question, statement came in from Janice. She says, great webinar. So looking forward to seeing you in Detroit. I learned tons today. And audience, yes, if you see, we're keeping Greg Gifford very, very busy. He has a lot of upcoming events. Now, while this webinar is awesome and it's a great way to catch up with Greg Gifford and all that's happening in SEO and social world, if you can ever catch him live, I highly, highly recommend it.
It's way more fun live.
Way more fun live. There you go. So we have all of these great dates coming up to end out our 2015. Hopefully one of these dates coincides with your travel plans. Please check him out, say hi, have a drink with him. Absolutely, buy him a drink. He obviously needs one. Greg Gifford, after that presentation, I hope you get yourself a wonderful lunch and maybe even a margarita.
It's a little early for the margarita, but yeah, I like the idea though.
All right, Greg, thank you so much. This was amazing. We're going to have Greg Gifford on as soon as we can. Again, you can catch him coming up on October 1st, actually, for our Q4 Automotive Marketing Briefing. He's going to be on there with the rest of the Dealer On executive team. Greg Gifford, thank you so much. You put on a great show. He gives great webinar. And you know what, audience? We're going to be sending out a short survey soon. I need your help. You've got to fill this out because we need your feedback on this. We want to know what you thought of Greg Gifford's presentation today. Let us know everything. We're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. So this could be your shot to win another prize. Who knows? And invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next webinar. Secrets to building a strong circle of influence for your business. Yeah, networking is one of the most powerful business building tools you have at your disposal. The relationships you cultivate and nurture today will turn prospects into buyers down the road. If you're not getting a constant flow of referrals and repeat business, then perhaps it's time to consider reviving the effectiveness of your circle of influence. Are you a captain of networking, or are you just riding the waves hoping for some good sales? Well, in this brilliant one-hour webinar, famed automotive trainer and president of Kane Automotive, David Kane, explains in detail how your entire sales team must focus on growing their business, and the first place to start is with their own circles of influence. David will not only explain why building, developing, and maintaining your circle of influence will provide a sustainable and profitable business-generating network for every salesperson, but he will also detail how dealership managers can supervise daily social hours to engage even more customers and prospects. You'll learn the vitals and have a defined plan for making your year-end sales your best ever. If you're ready to learn the secrets to building a strong circle of influence for your business to increase your sales, then you simply can't afford to miss this presentation. Don't forget, Dealer-On's weekly webinars are held Thursdays, 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, contact me directly. Again, my name is Eliana Raggio, and I love hearing from you. So track me down online. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. I'm on all the automotive social networks, or email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today, and I hope to see you all on another webinar in Dealer-On's continuing education series. Take care.